All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking with Daniel and Kasi Haire of the Nolensville Farmers Market about how they've used a drive-through format to adjust to new market guidelines and what's next. I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I do it all from pulling permits to social media marketing, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White. You're another co-host, director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and info booth lady for San Diego Markets.
Info booth lady. Put that in your name tag. All right. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk. We've been talking a lot lately about the current public health emergency and all the changes that come with it. We know how very serious the situation and how it's affected people who have just been in the thick of it, like all of us, and just talking about how to adjust our business as we navigate this new world and all the creative ideas we're all coming up with.
So we do take this seriously. We know a lot of people's health has been affected. We tend to joke around and be a little saucy in our podcast, but we are not making light of the situation. We just want to dig into how we all deal with it. The various states, counties, cities have imposed different regulations, either identifying farmers markets as essential or identifying them as gatherings and closing them all together. So we're exploring that with our guests today, and we've been talking about it at the Farmers Market Pros community. And of course, we've been dealing with it ourselves as farmers market managers. So as the season is upon us and even more markets around the country are opening, we're continuing that discussion about what's happening in each different region and what kind of creative things our market managers are coming up with to deal with this. Our guests today actually have done some really creative things, so it'll be interesting to talk to them.
Yeah, we're so excited. Today we're speaking with the board president, Daniel, and market manager, Kasi, of the Nolensville Farmers Market in Tennessee. This is a producer-only market open on Saturday mornings at the historic Nolensville School in Nolensville, Tennessee. So welcome, Daniel and Kasi. We're so glad to speak with you.
Thank you. We're really, really excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys again. So we haven't seen you since the conference back in February when things were normal.
Completely different.
Like
2 months ago. Does seem like so long ago, a totally different world. Where is Nolensville? For people that, so you're in Tennessee. Are you near Nashville? Are you near Knoxville?
We are just south of Nashville.
Just south of Nashville. Okay.
Right on the Davidson-Williamson County border.
Cool. And how big is Nolensville?
I think it's up to about 15,000. It's one of the fastest growing towns in Middle Tennessee.
Oh, nice. Cool. And so how many farmers markets are in Nolensville? Just y'all's?
Just one.
Okay. And how many markets do you have? Just one a week?
Yes, just Saturdays.
Cool. How long's that been open?
We started the market in 2014, so this will be our 7th season running.
Well, that's exciting. Is it year-round or you're seasonal?
So we've played with seasons. Some years were year-round, others were not. We're trying to figure out what works best for this area, and then also pulling in producers that can grow year-round. It is hard to grow year-round in Tennessee, and so finding those farmers that have the equipment and the setup to grow year-round has been kind of difficult, but we're getting better. As the area grows and as our market grows, we're getting bigger farmers that have the capacity to do that.
Oh, terrific. And I think farming in general, with just the advent of hoop houses and things, farmers are getting smarter about extending their seasons. So you guys get a lot of snow, but people are getting better at some of those indoor things that helps them.
So what's the usual format of your market? You guys do indoor, outdoor, or a mix? And like how many vendors do you usually have at your markets?
So up until this year, our traditional market has been a combination of an outdoor space and an indoor space. Like you said, we're at the historic Nolensville School, which has been turned into a community center We have a gymnasium that we set up with indoor space with heating and air. So that is fantastic for all the shoppers and the vendors that have products that might be heat sensitive, because we can have extreme temperatures. Then we have the parking lot outside that we set up outside. We typically can hold about 65 vendors, and we have anywhere from at our lowest point about 25 up to 65 on our peak season.
Oh, so that's a nice size market.
Awesome.
And when you say producer only, you have farmers, obviously. Do you also have food makers as long as they produce their wares? And do you have craft? What sort of product mix do you have?
Yes, we have all of the food artisans, craft makers. We really focus on food, and we try to limit the craft as much as we can. But we want to give the artists a place to sell their wares as well.
Yeah, so nice mix. So when does your market typically open? I know you guys have said that you kind of play around with seasons, but for the 2020 season, before all this stuff started happening, when was your original kind of projected opening date?
So we had planned on opening April 25th. That is usually the start of strawberry season in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And we were fortunate enough to keep that opening date. Like you mentioned, we pivoted a little bit in our setup by doing a drive-through market.
A little bit, huh? You call that a little pivot, do you?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us how that happened. You guys saw what was happening, and then how did you transition to that drive-through, and how did it work? We saw your video there, but for anyone listening that didn't see that, kind of explain how that drive-through got set up on that first day.
Yeah, so we're pretty fortunate. The parking lot that we set up in is really can easily be converted to the drive-through format. We have an in and we have an out, and basically a straight line between the two. And so we lined all of our vendors up in front of the building. We had 2 lanes of traffic. So on the right lane is where you would pull in front of the vendor tents if you were going to stop and either pick up your pre-order or purchase on the fly from that vendor there. Or you could take the left lane to go around the car that has stopped in front of you to kind of move in front of them to go on to the next vendor if that vendor doesn't have something that you wanted. And just to keep that traffic flowing.
That sounds like it could go really well or get really crazy. How was that?
It seems kind of dangerous, like for like dodging like a game of Frogger or something.
It is a little bit. We asked all of the vendors to stay right beside their tent and not to cross in front of any vehicles. My day job, I'm an engineer, and I spend a lot of time working as an industrial engineer, which our main job is to focus on flow, how things move and go throughout the factory. So I used a lot of the engineering principles that I've been using for years to set up the vendors to actually try and get the best flow. And we took time studies to try and figure out, we did counts, we collected all this data.
Wow.
So that's one of the things that we like to do as a market, is collect as much data to help us drive decisions. And that allowed us to go from 150 cars served the first week to 180 cars served the second week.
Wow.
Which is not a huge increase, but as a percentage, that's 20% increase.
Yeah.
So it really helped a lot more people get through the market quickly.
It's really funny, the different kinds of backgrounds and the different skill sets that apply to market management, isn't it? We were having a little bit of a conversation about that over in the Farmers Market Pros community.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, the backgrounds that people have and how no matter what kind of skill or what kind of job you've had in the world, it directly applies to managing markets.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. Our job description is so varied.
For sure.
I'm curious how your shoppers responded to the drive-through. Did they like it? Was it weird for them? Did you get any feedback from the people that took you up on that?
So we did get a few of the people that you get the feeling might be bothered by any change to their normal life.
We know the type.
It was very few. There's almost nothing else to do right now. And so a lot of families took the time to just sit in their car as a family. Moms or dads took the time to get away and sit and listen to their favorite podcast or just jam out to some music. We were able to set up coffee and juice at the line grew. We had a line as deep as 75 cars at one point this past weekend. And so we had our coffee and juice vendors walking the line, offering coffee and juice. So people in general had a great time. It was pretty miserable the first weekend because it rained the entire time. And so the people in the cars weren't having a bad time, but everybody else was. Then it was just absolutely beautiful this past weekend. So like I said, a lot of people just took the time to relax and enjoy themselves and be out of the house and doing something.
So how long does it take to get through a line of 75 cars? Like, what do you think the longest is that anybody waited in line?
The wait time was about an hour. I think the longest wait time was about an hour and a half before they got to the first vendor. But once they hit that first vendor, we clocked them at an average of about 6 minutes to get through 27 vendors. So when you get to that point, it goes pretty quickly. And of course, we did a lot of encouraging of pre-ordering. And so that cut down on the time that was spent at each vendor. We also tracked that about 50% of the orders at the market were pre-ordered and only 50% were purchased on the fly.
And how are those pre-orders being made? Are they through a centralized website, or are they contacting each vendor individually to pre-order?
We set it up so that way each customer had to contact each vendor individually. There's just not, and I know we had talked a little bit about a centralized system and a system out there. We haven't been able to find anything that really worked and was able to be put in place as quick as we needed it to. We always knew that the drive-through system was going to be very temporary and that we would be trying to move back to a walk-through market as quickly as possible. And so the effort and the time that it would take to do kind of a centralized ordering system would be pretty much wasted when a lot of the vendors already had a social media that they could get orders through, phone, text, whatever.
And so what we did was we created a reference guide that had everybody that was doing pre-orders all in one place. We put it on our social media, we sent it in our emails, it was on our website. So you could just scroll down through the list and click links and make your shopping list.
That's great. And did all your vendors that you usually have participate, or did you have some vendors say, you know what, I'm just going to take a break, or I'm not really interested in doing the drive-through, or did you have everybody?
I was surprised. I thought we were going to have to turn vendors away, but we ended up having a few spots open that we could have potentially filled with people. So we did limit it to the food products, the farms, the meat, the ranchers, that kind of thing, as well as bath and body products, kind of what are considered the essential items. And ask the rest of our vendors to take a step back for a few weeks while we kind of get this under control.
So Daniel, is that just a decision that you made, or is your state or county telling you, are they giving you restrictions on what kind of vendors you can have? Are they telling you that you can only have essential vendors, or are they just leaving it up to you?
No, they're leaving it up to us. And we're very connected to the rest of the market managers in our community, and that's a decision that we all kind of made together. Okay. We didn't mention at the beginning, Kasi is actually the president of the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets.
Oh, good.
So she is, that's the private organization that interfaces directly with the state of Tennessee as well. And so we've been having Zoom calls with market managers all over the state, and everybody has kind of come to the same conclusion. Tennessee is a very friendly state when it comes to business, when it comes to free enterprise. And so they didn't have quite as many restrictions as a lot of other states. Our governor, Governor Lee, is an active rancher, and his agriculture commissioner is an active dairy farmer who actually sells his products at farmers markets. And so they have been very cautious and given us good advice, but they have not been very restrictive.
Oh, that's great. Having somebody in the position of understanding it makes things so much easier. And having a strong association is huge. I think that's part of the challenges we're seeing in some areas, is that the market managers themselves aren't doing things consistently. And then that gets really confusing, both for the public or for the farmers and vendors that say, well, why do we have to do it this way here when so-and-so 10 miles away is doing something completely differently? So that if you've got a strong association, you're just so many miles ahead.
Yeah, we were really fortunate that the Nashville Farmers Market really piloted this drive-through market concept several weeks before our market was even set to open. And so I went down there the first week that they did it and just observed how things worked, offered some advice that I saw while I was there to try to help them make it faster. And I think one of their peak markets with the drive-through, they served almost over 300 cars in 3 hours. So that's very fast. It's a lot of people to get through. And I know she had just as many vendors as we did.
Wow.
That's awesome. I feel like we had a similar thing here in San Diego. Our Little Italy market opened before a lot of the other markets. And we saw a lot of San Diego farmers market managers come through, and we kind of chatted with them and brainstormed. And then I drove past the North Park market the other day, and they had the 6-foot sticks that we have implemented at the Little Italy market. It was just fun to kind of see how people are, paying attention to what is working at other markets and implementing those ideas. It seems like that collaboration, at least here locally, is a little bit more open than it has been in the past. So it's great that you guys are all collaborating too in Tennessee.
The North Park Market's funny actually, because we have a typo on our huge signs, and we've made a ton of them, but there's one funny typo in there. And when I went out to the North Park Market, I could see they have the same typo. So they clearly didn't just model their signs on ours. They actually just copied and pasted.
Hey, it's the biggest sign of flattery.
That's right.
Yeah. So with the drive-through market, is that like did it seem like a viable option financially? Was it always, or when you all started that, did it seem like something that you would just kind of continue to do? Or did you know that you would just do it for a few weeks and then you knew you would transition to that walkthrough as long as everything kind of continued on the path with the health issues? Were you thinking that the drive-through would be temporary, or were you thinking the drive-through was going to be your solution for the season?
We definitely built our budgets based on a normal market season. And so we've had to go back and revise that slightly just to make sure that we can accommodate for what we know is going to be a little bit slow in the front end. We track total vendor sales. We have our vendors report their sales because that's how our fee structure works. We take, it's not a straight percentage. It's kind of a sliding scale fee structure. And so that allows us to collect a lot of data. And as a vendor, per vendor basis, our vendors did very well. But because the market was much smaller and we were able to see less customers, then the overall sales and our overall income as a market was much, about half of what it was, or what we expected it to be. So we would have to really, really make some serious cuts if we were going to continue that format, just because we only have a space for so many vendors and we can only see so many customers at a time. So we would really have to change some things in a major way. By going back to a walkthrough format, we're going to be able to see more customers. We're going to be able to have more vendors, and that will allow everybody to continue to accelerate and grow, and the market will get closer back to that budgeted condition that we looked for in the beginning.
Yeah.
We're still limiting the type of vendors that we allow. So we're still not having any kind of craft or artisans. It's only farmers, meat producers, food makers, and body care and health vendors.
Oh, nice. So that makes sense, just to make those kind of adjustments. Do you know, is Nashville still doing a drive-through market, or they switched back?
They are. So this Saturday, they'll be doing a drive-through market again. I believe the following Saturday, the 16th, they're moving to a walk-through market.
Gotcha. What day of the week is your market?
Ours is Saturdays.
Okay. So are you going back to walk through this weekend?
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Wow.
Yes.
And you still have time to talk to us. Amazing.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, I'm following you all on Facebook. And so I was seeing what was going on, and I go, we should talk to them. They're doing a drive-through. And then I looked again and I said, oh no, they're doing a walkthrough starting tomorrow. But yeah, how's the reaction been to that? And are you guys excited to go back to that model? And what kind of precautions and extra stuff do you guys have to do there?
I'm excited. I know Kasi, it's a lot for her to switch over in the week because she does almost 100% of the day-to-day management. So it's been, on top of that, we had some major storms come through on last Sunday, and we have zero internet at our rural house. And so she's having to drive down the road and park places for 6 to 7 hours at a time to work. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, but I'm excited. Many of the community is excited. There's many in the community. I wouldn't say many. There's some in the community that are concerned, some that are just going to avoid it altogether. I actually shared a article from WHYY about on our page, on some of our posts, kind of outlining how we're going to go back to our walk-through market. And it's an outside market. The majority of the market's the outside. The rest of the market, the smaller portion, is going to be inside a gymnasium. So we're talking about a massive amount of space. It's going to give people plenty of room to distance. Where before we had some of our big vendors, strawberry are the big seller this time of year, and where they would typically have a line that's wrapped all the way through the market, we're basically going to flip them around backwards, and there's baseball fields out behind our market and a walking path, and we're going to allow that line to form down the walking path, and so that'll allow people to space out, and it won't crowd the market. And so it's we're taking a lot of precautions, and we're doing everything we possibly can to make it as safe for everybody. But overall, it's been positive. There's just people with concerns. And as people come down and see, as they talk to their neighbors, I do Facebook Live videos, usually at least once a market and oftentimes twice a market, where I get out and walk around and talk about things. That's been a major positive for us. And so that will allow people to see, okay, this is actually better, safer, more spaced out than you are going to most any grocery store in the area.
I know we've seen a lot of cities where, well, it happened to us as well, actually. We were closed for a couple of weeks and then we reopened, and we got, some downright hateful comments on social media, but it's really people operating out of fear. And it's because in their head, they're picturing your old market, which I'm sure was a terrific essential grocery store and also a heck of a lot of fun and really crowded and festive. And that's what they're thinking of. And so they're frightened at the idea that you're going to cram all those people in again. But we find that the social media and commentary hostility curve flattens really quickly. As soon as you open once and people get a chance to see that you've really changed your procedures and that people really are spread apart and everybody's safe, we find that stuff just completely flattens out almost immediately. We got next to nothing the second week that we opened, even though we had huge chains of very alarmed people commenting the very first week.
Well, I believe that for sure. And it's so interesting just seeing the dynamic of comments that we got. We have some people that are absolutely just cannot believe that we're not requiring everybody to wear face masks. And then right behind that, we have people that are so upset that they can't bring their children and their whole family down to the market anymore.
Yeah.
Same.
It's amazing.
You literally have opposite viewpoints being mad at you for the exact same thing.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. You can't hardly respond. You can't do anything other than just let the experience happen and let the community be your biggest advocate, which is what we've always.
Yeah, I have noticed on the comments on your posts, just like ours and other markets that I'm looking at, there's those two extremes, polar opposite kind of commenting. And then there's a lot of people in the middle that are like, hey, thank you so much for opening. We can't wait. We're going to be safe. I'll just shop alone. It's fine. I can't wait to get my strawberries. And you guys are doing a great job. So, just kind of, I'm trying to keep my focus on those kind of middle grounders and kind of let the other people phase out as you open up and everything is working well at the market. So
it's a weird testament to how diverse the people are that come to the farmers market. Like, even there's a lot of people complaining on either side of the aisle. It's like, oh, everybody loves the farmers market or wants to come. They just have differing views on the way that it should be operated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I joked to Daniel, one of our customers commented about, what do you guys expect? We can't please everyone. And I told Daniel, I said, we should give her a gift certificate.
Right?
To the market. Yeah. That we want to say. And He was like, no, we really should.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. I mean, that's the most encouraging thing is when you get to the point where you've got, especially once you've done it once and the customers see it, you'll have a really good core of people who are so excited that you're so safe and you're so organized and it's working so well. And then they take over answering those other folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really see that a lot. But yeah, gift certificates all around for the good people.
Give those people some strawberries.
That's right.
They get to cut the line for strawberries.
Right.
Something special. Well, we're really excited that you guys chatted with us. I love seeing everyone else's markets and what they're doing. And it's been really encouraging. I think a lot of us as market managers kind of went through like a, slump, kind of thinking about what are we going to do? This is crazy. And then now it's really nice to connect with other managers and see what everyone's doing and kind of cheer each other on.
Yeah.
So,
do you have all your vendors back for this weekend?
No, it's still only about 27 vendors and just.
Okay. So low. So are you making any plans to how are you dealing with that on a budget basis when you've got a much smaller market? Because that's the big question for a lot of operators. We figured out how to do it safely, but then how do we afford to do it safely?
Yeah.
We're being conservative. We're probably not going to take a trip to San Diego this year. just so you know, but we have to be conservative. And like we were just talking about, not only are the customers going to see how well it works, but the vendors that have been kind of holding back are going to see that, maybe I missed the market. I want to be back. And we're going to find ways each week to accommodate everybody that we possibly can until we are able to, one, get ahead of the pandemic, and two, try to fill up and still continue to be as safe as possible. And if that means you can't bring your kids and everybody and come and hang out at the market for the first half of the year or even all year, then that's unfortunately what it's going to have to be. But we have always taken the attitude of being positive and figuring out what are the solutions to the problems, not taking a step back and trying to see what's going to hold us back. And oftentimes we have found that people in the community, even some of the local officials, if we really have our act together and have done thorough planning and can answer every question that they have. We had a conversation with the chief of police before we did this, and he had a bunch of questions for him. And not only was I answering his questions, but I was taking it a step further. And he got to the point where he's like, all right, you guys got this taken care of. I'm wasting my time talking to you about anything else.
That's good.
If you have that attitude, then as a market manager, you can set the precedent in your community, and you can be a leader in your community, continue to be a leader, and helps other people and other events in the community by kind of setting the guidelines, being safe, and being responsible.
Absolutely. Do you run other events besides your market?
So we have some events that are outside of the farmers market realm, but under the farmers market name. We do a food truck festival.
I thought you were the ones that did the food truck festival. So that's kind of interesting. We'll take just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And I think I saw something, Daniel, in the Farmers Market Pros community where you were talking about how you're doing that differently. So if you could just describe that quickly, because I think it's really smart. There's a lot of us have, fundraising events and things during the year, and we're trying to figure out how are we ever going to run that dinner or how are we going to run that fundraiser. And you had a really cool idea on the food truck fundraiser, I thought.
So we tried to put together a plan to operate our food truck festival much like we did our drive-through market, by people stay in their vehicles, they pre-order online, call in orders, and then the food trucks deliver them to the vehicles. So we had to get a much larger space for that in order to set up all the food trucks and then also have parking for people. And as their orders came up, they were able to drive up to the truck, or the trucks were able to run them to the vehicles. So it's still, and actually we changed the name because festivals are not allowed by name.
No.
So it's the food truck fundraiser now, not the food truck festival.
Perfect.
And so it just allowed us, like I said, find a solution to the problem. Don't just throw your hands up and walk away. And so we're also working with the local food truck association to get food trucks that are willing to participate in something like that, in a market like that, or an event like that. So that's been a little bit of a challenge at this point, but we're continuing to reach out to more and more food trucks and see if they want to participate. But like I said, you can't always just throw your hands up and quit and walk away. The people of the community love food trucks. They very rarely get food trucks in the area just because of our local ordinances. So when we're able to do an event like this, it's always a big event. So we wanted to make sure and try and continue it. And we always do it on the Friday when school ends. So that's kind of, it marks the end of the school year,
fun.
and everybody kind of goes out, has a big time at the food truck festival, and then starts their summer. And so we're going to try to keep that date and be a symbolic marker towards the real beginning of summer.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you were able to kind of pivot with that and make it happen. All I want to know, I just want pictures. I'm hoping those car hops that are going from the food trucks to the cars are on roller skates. Tell me they are.
That would be great.
That'd be funny.
They need like segues.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hoverboard things.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be good.
Is that in the budget? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
Be
know.
fun though.
Yeah.
So what do you see coming? Do you think it's going to be this season, this year? I mean, we ask everybody, it's sort of become our question of the week now. And obviously none of us have any idea. We're just extrapolating and fantasizing, but I'm just always curious at what people think about. Do you think this is going to sort of quote unquote normalize by the end of summer? Do you think we're probably in for a whole year where we've got to monitor how many people are on site at once?
I think it's going to be a whole summer of paying attention to what's going on and having restrictions. And I don't think our market's going to be completely full all summer. But I think we're still going to have a good year. We've got new vendors that we're welcoming, and we want to grow them and introduce them to the community. And like I said, even if you only have one person per household come down and shop, if we're still doing the same amount of business with just less people, that's going to be what we intended to do, which was to get fresh local food into the local community, straight from the farmers to the community, and we're going to be able to accomplish our goal. Everybody could potentially be hurt financially, I think is going to be okay. And I think we're going to be able to carry through and be bigger and better and stronger the following year. But I do think we're in for at least a summer of weird stuff.
Well, you're a farmers market manager hero. There's so many heroes out there.
And Kasi, as the Association of Farmers Market president, does that seem like the theme with other market managers in Tennessee, that I don't know if you guys are discussing any kind of predictions for markets, but what are other market managers saying in Tennessee there?
I mean, it's so hard to predict. I have conversations daily with our craft vendors. Please let me come back. I just want to be there and to see everybody. And I'm like, we just cannot.
Yeah.
My goal is really to kind of allow a few, maybe in June, depending on spacing and how much traffic we get. But it's so hard. I think everyone is just sitting on the edge of their seat waiting on Governor Lee to give us the go-ahead to relieve the social distancing requirement. But like Daniel said, I don't see that happening soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good he's keeping y'all safe.
Yeah.
So as an association, you're probably pretty tuned in. Are most of the markets in Tennessee opening?
I would say yes, most are. Maybe about 20% that happen on government property of some sort.
Oh.
Those are the ones that are having a harder time opening because I don't know if city and county officials feel like they have to adhere to a stricter standard than what the governor's putting out, or fear of being sued for whatever reason. I think Kat and I had a conversation of people suing because they think they contracted it at your market. It's so hard to even think about that could be a potential. But I would say majority of markets are pivoting in some way. And we as an association have just been reaching out and offering as much assistance as possible. We're putting out some graphics, some social media graphics, because we know not all markets have a graphic designer on staff or even the knowledge to create something like that themselves. So we're trying to help with some graphics, and we've been watching the Farmers Market Pros community, and a lot of the market managers there are graciously offering a lot of graphics there as well.
Yeah,
So
it's been good.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for
Thanks so
speaking
much.
with us. We're really excited to see how the market goes tomorrow for you and kind of keep in touch. And
And if we're ever allowed to travel again, if y'all won't come to San Diego,
Yeah.
we're going to take the conference on the road.
yeah,
Right?
we'll come to
let's go
you.
Tennessee.
Yay!
One of my other positions, I'm on the executive board for the Pick Tennessee Conference.
Oh,
A conference together for 9 state associations, so including farmers markets, organic growers, flower growers, all of the associations. And so when we came back from San Diego, we had a chat with what we're going to do next year if we can have the conference. And so we would love to invite Kat to come talk to
Yay.
market managers at the conference. So hopefully,
I'd love to
fingers
do that. I hope there's conferences and we can do that again. Right before this all went down, I was at the Washington State Farmers Market Association conference and then the California Small Farm Conference. And then 2 weeks later, I was scheduled to go to Alaska. And in those 2 weeks, it just all went to hell. But love to visit other conferences and get to know other people in the farmers market world. So we'll work on that. Hopefully your conference and our conference will be on next year. One way or the other.
For
It
sure.
will be.
That's right.
We'll
make it
Zoom
work.
if we can't do it any other way.
That's right. All right, you guys. Well, thank you again so much, and good luck at your market tomorrow. And we will keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
you guys.
See you.
Bye. Well, let us know what's happening in your world. Are you just opening your market for the season, delaying opening? Will you be doing online ordering or drive-up markets? Or how are your markets going right now? To hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Feel free to come over, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join that group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead and original music by David Mead. Thanks for listening.